Thank you very much, Jess. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this presentation on the Eurasian Technical Regulation 141. And today, the outline is the following. So, first we are going to start with the background and timeline of the technical regulation. And then we are going to look closer and more in detail on the regulation and different chapters of this regulation. And afterwards, we are going to mention about the EAE inventory and what part it plays in the regulation. And finally, everything is going to be wrapped up with the take-home message. So starting with the background and timeline. The background for this regulation is the Eurasian Economic Union, which was formed in January 2015. And one of the areas of cooperation for this economic union is the establishment of common technical regulations. And in 2017, among other regulations, technical regulations that have been established, the Technical Regulation 041/2017 on safety of chemical products was adopted by the EAE Commission. And it's also expected to enter into force 2nd of June 2021. And there's also a second part of the regulation that was supposed to be adopted in December 2018 that would include more clarifications on different parts of this regulation, the first document that has been published. However, this has been postponed due to the disagreement between the different member countries in the EU. So here we have a slight overview of the timeline. And so in 2017, as you can see, the Eurasian Economic Union, the Commission adopted the TR 041 on chemical product safety. And in 2018, the second part of this regulation with clarifications was expected to be adopted, as I said before. And to today's date, it has still not been adopted. Also in 2019, Russia opened its national inventory for notification of chemical substances, and it closed this August, 1 month ago, and it will be finalized by Russian authorities and published in December 2020. I will go through more in detail on the Russian inventory and why that is important. And also in 2021, as said, 2nd of June, the regulation is expected to be implemented. And after that date, all the manufacturers and importers are expected to comply with the regulation. So let's look more in detail on the Technical Regulation 041. So the full name is the Technical Regulation 041/2017. 2017 stands for the year when it was adopted, and it's regulation of the Eurasian Economic Union on safety of chemical products. Also pay attention that it is sometimes called Eurasia REACH or TR41, which are the nicknames but not official names, since the official name is very long. So if you see Eurasia REACH, it is exactly the same regulation that it refers to. This regulation is valid for all EU countries, which includes Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Armenia. And the adaptation period of this regulation is for 4 years, from 2017 to 2021. And by December 2018, as said before, there should have been more clarifications, appointment of responsible institutions for the regulation, and national inventory formation. None of this has yet been done, except some parts of the national inventory formation, which we will look more into detail later. And as we know for now, it has been moved to March 2021. However, this date might also change. So the content of the TR 041 is the following. There are 12 chapters in the regulation. And as you can see, the ones that are underlined, we are going to discuss them a bit more than the others. And the content is the following. So first, they mentioned the application area, then terminology, then rules for the identification and circulation of chemical products on the market, requirements for classification, general safety requirements, requirements for labeling and precautionary labeling, requirements for the safety data sheet, ensuring compliance with the requirements, notification of new chemical substances, and compliance assessment to the requirements of this technical regulation. So, which are the goals for this technical regulation? The primary goal is to promote safety of human life and health, the environment, life and health of animals and plants, and prevent actions that mislead consumers. But then there's also another goal. This is the goal of the Eurasian Economic Union, to form and establish union requirements for chemical products that are in circulation on the EU market. So here in the boxes, you can see the application area and the exemptions. Please pay attention that the application area, called inclusions in the green box, they are approximate because they are not clearly stated in the technical regulation document that we have right now. And they are supposed to be clarified in the second part of the regulation that we don't have yet. However, the exemptions are very clearly stated in appendix number 1 of the current regulation. But if we look more into detail, so we can see that the inclusions, which are approximate, include organic synthetic products, acids, salts, and bases, inorganic synthetic products, substances for the production of plastic, rubber, polymers, synthetic fibers, agricultural products, plant protection products, herbicides, paints, household chemicals, other chemical products. What concerns the exemptions, which are clearly stated in appendix number 1 of the current technical regulation, it includes drugs for medical use and veterinary medicines, minerals in a state of occurrence, perfume and cosmetic products. Here it is important that you pay attention to the fact that if you have a chemical substance that is used in a cosmetic product, you should still notify it because it still falls under this regulation because it's a chemical substance. Then chemical products that are a source of ionizing radiation, including their waste, food products, food additives, and nutritional supplements, products including manufactured articles that do not change their chemical composition, waste products, and chemical products under transit through the EU. So, looking more closely on this chapter 3 on rules for the identification of chemical products, it is generalized information, and what is important to remember that there are country-specific national standards for identification of chemical products. And they are called GHOST. GHOST is a standard that is voluntarily applicable on the EU, on the territory of EU countries. However, if there is no GHOST that is applicable in a certain country, for example, Kyrgyzstan, they might have their national standard. So it is important to pay attention that not all countries might have a GHOST standard. For example, Russia and Belarus might have adopted a GHOST standard for identification of chemical products, but Kyrgyzstan has their own national one. So for the identification of chemical products, there is this GHOST for identification of chemical products and general provisions. And some important rules, just to name a few, the establishment of a chemical name according to EPAC nomenclature and CAS number, determination of the mixture's chemical composition, which includes identification of the main chemical and potentially hazardous substances as a part of impurities. Then establishing the presence of the new chemical substances in chemical products and concentration of more than 0.1% per weight, assignment of chemicals to new chemicals or chemical substances prohibited for use on the territory or chemical substances that are restricted for use on the territory of the Union. And also the designation of the field of application, so how exactly is this chemical going to be used. So, rules for the circulation of chemical products on the market. Chemical products must comply with the technical regulation 041 and the other regulations that might apply in order to be allowed into circulation in the Union. So this is pretty simple, and all chemicals also need to be present in the common EE inventory of chemicals and mixtures before they can be released into circulation on the territory of the Union. So yes, there is a common EAE inventory that is supposed to be formed, and the Russian inventory, national inventory formation is part of that, but we're going to again discuss that in a few minutes. And then also requirements for classification of chemical products. So the classification is carried out either by the manufacturer or the person authorized by the manufacturer, the only representative, for example, or the importer of this product. And then there are different standards, but here you have just two mentioned as an example, that, for example, hazard classification of chemical products or classification of chemical hazardous due to their physical and chemical properties. And also in the right down corner, you can see the example of what GHOST standard document looks like. General safety requirements. So to ensure safe circulation of chemical products, the following requirements must be met. And first of all, it is the compliance by the manufacturer, person authorized by the manufacturer or importer with the requirements of this technical regulation 41. Then it is also important to provide the intended use by the consumer of chemical products, assignment of compliance with chemical products with this regulation, assessment of compliance. So there should be an assessment done, except that you just comply with the regulation. There should be an assessment of how you comply, and the implementation of preventive measures when handling chemical products, and then informing the consumers about the dangerous properties and methods of safe disposal of this chemical product. So chapters 7 and 8, requirements for labeling and precautionary labeling of chemicals. First of all, it is most important to know that all the labeling should be prepared in Russian, no matter in which country you're going to import your chemicals to. The Russian is the main language for labeling of these chemical products. And then this labeling should include the name of the chemical product, or if you also have the brand name, it's good, you can include that too. Contact details by the manufacturers and that of the importer. Then the name of chemicals and mixtures classified as hazardous and contained in the composition of chemical products in quantities exceeding the concentration specified in the standards. Here you need to more precisely into the standards. Storage conditions, the recipe of the chemical product, so what does it consist of, how it has been made, and information on the hazardous properties of chemicals, including warning marks. And also there's the precautionary labeling that is done in accordance with the GHOST on precautionary labeling of chemical products, and that GHOST is actually valid for all the EEE countries. So chapter 9, requirements for the safety data sheet. And here we have the manufacturer or the OR or the importer that is expected to compile that safety data sheet. And there's also a special post for that that explains how to compile safety data sheet for chemical products. You can also see the example of the Russian safety data sheet here to the right. Also ensuring compliance with chemical products with the requirements of the technical regulation. So basically, to become compliant with the regulation, you need to meet the requirements of the regulation, simple as that. And notification of new chemical substances is carried out by entering information about them in the register, also called the EEE inventory, of chemical substances and mixtures. And there is general information required, usually it's the CAS number, UPAC name, molecular structural formulas. However, more clarifications are to come when the second part of the regulation will be adopted. And here we have a demonstration of the compliance process. So there are two ways. If you're a manufacturer abroad, you can appoint an only representative, or an importer can do that job for you. And then you can do either, if you have notified to the inventory and your chemical is present in the common EAE inventory, then you will go through the notification registration procedure, which is less painful, so to say. It requires less information that you need to register a chemical before you can put it into circulation. Or there is a second thing you can do, is the in case your chemical is not present in the common EE inventory, then you have to do a laboratory investigation with your chemical before you can register your chemical. And then it's called the permissive registration. So it's a more time-consuming process, unfortunately, but that's how it is. So firstly, you will have to do the laboratory investigation, then your chemical will be included in the register, the inventory, the EE inventory, and then you will be able to register your chemical. So there is, however, no information on penalties yet, and no dates and fees that are established. We also expect that to be clarified in the second part of this regulation that is yet to come. So please bear that in mind. So who are the competent authorities for this technical regulation of 41 then? So it's obviously the EU Commission that established this document and approved it. And then we have also some authorities identified in these 3 countries. So in Russia, it's the Ministry of Industry and Trade. In Belarus, it's the State Committee of Standardization. And in Kazakhstan, it's the Ministry of Industry and Infrastructural Development. You can also see the pictures of their websites here in the boxes in the computers. The other, by the way, the other countries, there's no identified authority for the other countries. That's why they're not mentioned. And looking at the EE inventory, so to clarify that, there are 2 steps. The first step is the formation of a national inventory by every member country. And this is done to list chemicals as existing on the national market. So Russia, for example, they have to make an inventory of all the chemicals they have on their market, the same for Belarus and Kazakhstan. And then all substances with a concentration of more than 0.1% per mass are the subject to this inventory. And then the second step is then formation of this common EE inventory, which has not yet happened. And the reason for that is you can see that only Russia so far has made this national inventory, and for September 2020 it has already closed, so they're publishing it, they're in process. However, other countries, they have not yet even started the process, and that is a bit complicated because this was supposed to be done last year, and due to that delay on the disagreement of the second part of the regulation, they also have not yet started to form the national inventories. So, for example, Belarus is preparing, but there is no date. And there's not much information about other EU countries. And as said before, this EU inventory, common EU inventory, will be the main inventory to have your chemical substance when you want to register your chemical. And a bit more on the Russian inventory. So 15th of July, Russia published a transitional inventory. I see that there's a mistake. It should be 15th of June. Sorry about that. And 1st of August, the Russian inventory closed. So we're happy to announce that GPC has processed more than 500 substances and nominated 300 substances to this Russian inventory. And in the end of this year, the finalized inventory is expected to be published. So what you can see right now is the transitional inventory that for all the substances that have been nominated until 15th of June. But in the end of this year, there will be a finalized inventory with all the substances that have been nominated during the inventory procedure. And there are also rumors that the Russian inventory will be taken as a base for the EU inventory, since, as I said before, there are no other countries that have yet started doing their inventories. And since Russia is the biggest market, so to say, they might just skip having the national inventories for other countries and just use the Russian one as the base and form EAE inventory on the basis of the Russian one. However, and unfortunately, there are no official confirmation to that information yet. So, take-home message. What have we learned today on this webinar presentation is that What considers the technical regulation of 41? There are main requirements that are identified in this document, and the exceptions are clearly defined. However, there's still a second part document that waits for an approval with more clarifications, more registration dates, and hopefully it will be given to us in March next year, but we don't know yet. And what considers the common EU inventory? So the first step is to form national inventories, but as I said, just recently only Russia has done this so far. And then it will all merge into one common EU inventory, which will be used then and applied as a part of this technical regulation. And what concerns the Russian inventory? It just recently closed 1 month ago, 1st of August, and the transitional inventory is now available, and the final version of the inventory will be published in the end of this year. So I hope this was pretty clear, and thank you very much for this possibility to present. And if you have any questions, now I let Jess to take over and monitor them. So thanks again.
Thank you, Elena, for a very presentation. And now we have learned a lot about the Eurasian region.